bluegrass.
Okay,
You
Coach.
know, I like
They're
everything else.
asking.
I like everything else.
They're asking if you like Jay-Z or Drake.
Uh, wow, that's a good one. Uh, yeah, I like them both, but they're
Okay.
not they're not exactly at the top of my list when I put on music. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, they're not in your rotation, basically.
Generally not.
What's your all-time favorite song?
Oh, I don't know if I have an all-time favorite song. Um, I don't know if I do. I don't think I do. I don't
You
think I
don't think
do.
so?
I don't
Okay.
think so.
What about favorite artists?
I've got a bunch of those that I really like. Uh, I like I like Springsteen a lot. I like U2 a lot.
Hmm. Oh, you two
Uh,
is good.
yeah, I listen to a ton of Motown stuff. You know,
Okay.
that's like every that's like every day in our house. You know, there's some
Hmm.
kind of Motown stuff on.
Yeah.
Um, and now it's so easy. You know, you just put Pandora on and punch in Marvin Gaye or something, or you punch in Smokey Robinson, whatever, and then you get all kinds of really cool stuff. And um, but I love Frank Sinatra, I and as you can tell, I love jazz. So I kind of zig and zag here and there, and there you have it.
Yeah, you're pretty hip.
I don't
Most
know
people,
about
I feel
that.
like most people wouldn't know that, but you're a pretty hip, cool guy. You don't act like your age. I'll say that. I'll definitely say that.
That's a good
Um,
thing.
yeah. So I know you've had a couple of lives so far. You had Diana Taurasi and obviously Sue Bird. So I want to ask you
And we
which
had Stewie on.
and Suey. So I want to ask you, of those three, which one was your favorite?
See, now you're being like a dumb fan. Now
I'm
you're
not
asking
being.
me,
I'm literally.
yeah, now
I'm
you're asking me
asking
who's my favorite. Come
the
on, you know better than that.
questions.
Oh,
I'm
people are
asking
asking
questions from
questions?
the people. It's not
Sure.
asking who's your favorite, just which
There's
live
no,
was the most fun.
oh, which one of those live was the best? I would
Yeah,
say that I would say Diana's the most fun. That was probably the best one.
yeah.
I would go
That
with that. I
that
would
was
go with that.
my
Yeah,
favorite too.
yeah. Because with D, you're always going to get enough stuff that you're going to have to, in the middle of a conversation, you're going to have to go like, "Whoa, she just said that." So you just kind of roll with it.
Yeah, no, it was
Yeah,
good. One of my favorite parts of that live too, especially, is when she asked you, like, would you coach Paige the same way as me? And she was like,
yeah.
no. And you were like, well, I might.
I might. I,
Yeah.
I, you know, obviously she's right about that. Um, that it's very difficult to do today what what you were able to do in 2002, 3, 4. You know, now I'm not saying you can't. I think you got to do it a different way. But I don't think that the kids that I'm coaching right now, to them it's a big shocker. But to me, it's like I've toned it down a lot. But people think I'm a yell and screamer at practice. You were at practice every day.
Yeah, you're not.
Tell
You're
them the
not.
truth.
No, you're not.
Yeah, people think I
Actually,
go to practice and I yell and scream. I very rarely raise my voice in practice.
exactly. I got to tell you, my first year, you were completely different from what I expected.
Right,
Like I expected the screaming, the yelling,
right.
the crazy practices, all of that, and you're nothing like that.
No, I don't do that. It's just when I get pissed and when I do raise my voice, it's yeah,
You mean
it's a lot.
yeah, you mean business. Yeah,
Yeah,
those times,
yeah,
trust me, I was a little scared.
yeah. But
um,
it doesn't last long. I mean, it's like boop. It's comes and goes, you know, and then it's over.
Mm-hmm. And it happens, yeah. Well, one thing I wanted to talk to you about too is you kind of mentioned it earlier. How did you coach Diana Taurasi differently than, let's say, you did so with everyone else?
Well, I don't think I coached her different than anybody else. I coached her the same way I coached everybody else. That team that she was on in 2001 and 2002, those guys really hard because we were really, really talented, and
Mm-hmm.
we should have won a national championship her freshman year too. She
Yeah.
should have won. She should have won 4 in a row. Uh, and you know, I, we made some mistakes in the 2001 game, and she didn't play very well. But even though she didn't play very well, and we didn't have Sveta and we didn't have Shea, all right,
Yep.
so we're missing 2
Okay.
All-Americans,
Mm-hmm.
and Dee didn't play well at all. They didn't shoot the ball well, you know, and it kind of blew up that, you know, we had this big lead, and then we lost the lead, and then we couldn't make a shot, and I kind of took a different path with my team at halftime than I should have. You know, there's things that you do during the game that, you know, if they turn out great, then, you know, you're like, man, I just dodged a bullet on that one. But I don't think I coached D. You know, the difference is, you know, D wanted to be the best ever. You know, I think she came to UConn and she said, I want to be the best player ever. So, you know, you can't just coach somebody that says, I want to be the best player ever by going, hey, D, what do you think? You think you want to do this today or what?
Right.
You can't do that. And, you know, also being from California and being, you know, an Italian kid who kind of like thought she had it all figured out.
Yeah.
You know, you can't let that kid get away with anything because her nature is just blow things off that she doesn't like and really, really, really kill it on the things she does like. But if I'm going to make you the best ever, then I got to make you do all the crap you don't want to do. I mean, who wants to do that? I remember the first week of practice. I remember like the 3rd day or 4th day or something. We did this drill that we used to do where you got to get like 2 stops in a row, you know, like boom, boom, and like really legit stops, not pretend stops. And you know what? She couldn't get it, and she stayed in there, and she stayed in there, and she stayed in there, and finally she just quit. She said, "Screw this," and she started hacking people and smacking them. Every time they got caught the ball, she would punch them, you know, because she didn't guard them. She couldn't guard them anymore. And I said, "Get out." So there she comes in Connecticut, like the most heralded player ever to come to Connecticut at that time. She lasted about 3 days in practice. I said, "Get the hell out."
And you kicked her out.
Absolutely. Hell yeah, man. That's what I would have done with anybody else. Why wouldn't I do it to her?
No, that's awesome.
But at the same time, what people don't understand is that, you know, Dee earns respect. She doesn't ask for it; she earns it. So when she earns that respect, you then start to give her more and more and more freedom. You know, a lot of kids, they want a lot of freedom, but they don't want to earn it. They just want it. You know, Dee was willing to earn it. Like, fine, I'll earn it. And then by the time she was a junior, it was like, Dee, like, what do you think? What do you think we should do here? Because that's what great players, that's what they do. They make you trust them.
So then was it her junior year? When did you realize that she was going to be like Diana Taurasi? Because it's funny, when I watch ESPN, they talk about there's 1 or 2 players that has the same basically caliber resume as Michael Jordan, and the only one is her.
Yeah, I remember I was asked to coach 18 and under. I guess it would be 17 and under, 18 and under. I forget what it was because they've since changed that. So I don't know whether it was 18 or 17 and under. So it just so happened that it was the summer between Dee finished school in California and then coming to UConn in September. So it was that summer of 2000. You know, was it summer of 2000? Yeah, I think it was summer of 2000. So she's on the team. Obviously, we got her and Elena Beard are two guards, so we got a hell of a team. So I remember we're down in Argentina and we're playing we have to qualify for the World Championships. So we play the pool games, so it's like, you're playing Puerto Rico and then Mexico and then, Argentina, and then, you play all the pool games. And then after those, now you got Cuba and Brazil. You got the two best teams. So D was averaging like 12, in those pool games. And we were beating everybody by a lot. And I remember the night before we played in the semifinal game. So now it's the semifinal game. And I remember that night, I remember saying before the next game, I said, D, all right, listen. I can remember like this was yesterday. I said, D, here's the deal. No more screwing around. No more like 12, 13, 14 points, okay? You need to get 30 tomorrow night. That's all there is to it. Understand? And she just went, yeah, all right, no problem. So we went out and we played the game, and she got 29. And I said, shit, man, this is what we're talking about here. I can't wait till September.
That's crazy. That's so crazy.
Yeah.
Actually, you know what my favorite story is that you told me? And I can't remember. I'm not sure what Olympics it was or if it was in the Olympics, but you told me that you guys were in a zone. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Can you tell that story?
Don't even bring that up.
Don't
because you know
what?
What did she call herself 2 weeks ago? She called herself, or last week, benevolent asshole or something. That kind of.
She's like a kind-hearted.
Yeah, kind-hearted asshole or something. And I said she was half right,
Mm-hmm.
And well, people on here some have probably heard it, some have not. People get tired of hearing it.
Mm-hmm.
The people that are in my circle that have heard this story probably get tired of hearing it from either me or other people. But one thing that happened that was really funny was we were playing. When we went to the Czech Republic when she was playing for the World Championship, we ended up losing to the Czech team in Czechoslovakia. They were the home team, and we lost.
Mm-hmm.
So now we come back. That was in 2000. Now we come back in 2010. So we come back 10 years later. And we're playing the Czech Republic for the gold medal. And it's like the same kids, like a lot of the same guys on the team. So we're playing them, and they're really good, so they're really hard to guard. They're like, like most, international teams, their offense is really, really good. And you got to guard all five guys. There's a lot going on. So it was back and forth. We're up 5, we're up 3, we're up 5, we're up 2, we're up 6. And it just keeps going back and forth like that. So we made a shot, I think, to put us up 5 or something, maybe. I think it might have been. And I thought, they're all running back on defense, and I yelled, let's go zone, and we run back. Now, the problem with international teams is you got players playing out of position. So what ends up happening is Tina Charles, who's used to playing in the middle,
Mm-hmm.
of a lot of zones, now she's playing on the wing. Back then, like not a normal spot for her. So they come down and they just go boom, boom, and they hit a guy in the corner, and that guy buries a 3 against our zone. Now we inbound the ball, we go up. D takes the ball, crosses half court, and stops like 30 feet from the basket, and buries a 3. And then turns around and runs all the way down, right past our bench, and makes sure that everybody hears her. And she says, get out of this effing zone. And I said, who the hell said anything about zone? Who said to play zone? I said, we're man to man. Let's go. And it was really funny because, that's what kind of competitor she is. But at the same time, I hope that, you know, we had the kind of relationship that she could do that. But at the same time, I realized afterwards she talks like that to every coach now. So
Yeah.
I didn't feel special
You
anymore.
don't feel special anymore. No, that is like one of my all-time favorite stories that you've ever
Yeah.
told, and that's why I wanted you to tell people that, because I think that's the greatest. It's my favorite. All right, so I'm gonna take a couple of questions from some of the people, Coach, if you're cool with that.
Yeah.
Obviously, you know, you've had a lot of success for a long time. What would you say are the major keys to remaining great for such a long period of time?
Well, I think the number one thing is you gotta keep getting really, really good players. I mean, I use this comment all the time. There's two kinds of coaches in the world, you know, those who coach great players and ex coaches. So the
Mm-hmm.
minute you stop coaching great players, you don't coach very long. So you got to keep getting good players. That's number
Mm-hmm.
one. And you got to stay kind of relevant. You know, you got to stay current. You can't just say, well, this worked 20 years ago, so it's going to work today. Or
Right.
this worked with, you know, uh, Kerry Bascom and, you know, Megan Patterson's team.
Mm-hmm.
And uh, of course, it's going to work with Rebecca and Jen and Jamel's team. And then, of course, it's going to work with, you know, Sue and Dee and Asia, Tamika, Swin, that group. And then Stewie's group. And to adapt a little bit to them. And yet at the same time, you've got to stay kind of consistent with who you are, stay true to who you are. And there's some things you're going to have to adjust. Obviously, you know you can't have a team with like four guys 6'5", you know, that you want to play and go, okay, this is our philosophy, and I don't care what anybody else says.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be willing to adapt, and you got to adjust, and you got to figure out, how do I reach this group of kids during this particular time in my life and in their life.
So the last dance for you will be when you stop getting great kids.
Yeah, I mean, I say that. You heard me say it. I say that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I said it to you know, Tanya and Jamel. I say it to CD and Shay and Marissa when she was here, and Jazz.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you know, I say it all the time. I said, look, if we keep getting the kind of kids that we have, then I can coach for a long, long time.
Yeah.
If I got to start coaching kids that, like, you know, that I see a lot of the kids during the summer, and I see them go to these other schools, I said, yo, if I got to coach those guys, I ain't coaching them more. I
Yeah.
couldn't do it. There's no way.
Yeah.
And you know what I'm talking about. You know the
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah. You'll have to head out. Well, I think the craziest thing for me learning about you is every day you make adjustments to your offense all the time. And I feel like a lot of coaches, I don't think a lot of coaches do that, but you would make adjustments every single day. And the other thing I'll say is that a drill never ended just because players were tired. Like the drill was only over when they got it, when they couldn't get it wrong. And
That's right.
no,
That's
seriously,
right.
but that's the first time I've seen that, because a lot of coaches, once the drill starts getting sloppy, it's time to go to the next drill. Yeah.
Well, yeah, you know, this was in a book. This was in a book of that Vince Lombardi wrote. This was in a book where at practice training camp one day, one of the rookies asked one of the veterans. They said, "Man, it's getting dark out. Like we're like tired. How long are we going to practice?" And the guy, I think I might have been, and he goes, "We're going to be out here until he gets tired." And I laughed when I read that. You know, but sometimes, you know, you just gotta make a decision. Are we going to do this till we get it right, or are we going to just go, all right, we got to move on to the next thing. And you got to make that decision every day. Some days you go, that's it. Damn it, we're going to do this until we get it right. Other days, we could stay here for the next 10 hours. We ain't getting it right. So you got to move on.
Yeah.
You can't be stubborn like that. I mean, I can be stubborn, you know that. But at the same time, I'm not afraid to change things up. If I come in and our offense is really good and there's something that's really working, and then I see something and I go, this happened the other day. I think we ought to, kind of tweak this a little bit and change it up for the next game. And I want my players to be able to be smart enough where they can do that.
Mm-hmm.
Where they don't then all of a sudden, at the end of the world, oh my God, coach, what do you mean? Like, well, we've been doing it this way. So they get used to me just coming in and going, hey, I want to make this change. They're never, there's never a time, generally speaking, when my players are like, oh man, this is screwed up. I mean, they might think it, but they don't say it.
They don't say it. They definitely do not say it. They know better if you see me, trust me. All right. Here's another question from the people. What's the hardest part about building a championship team for you?
The hardest part? Well, as I said, you've got to get
good players.
Yeah, you got to get good players, but you got to get a certain kind of good player. You got to get a championship kind of kid. You got to get a kid that really understands what it means to sacrifice in order to win. Like if you watch that series, The Last Dance, that everybody's been talking about, there's a lot of sacrifices that have to be made if you want to win championships. And look, a lot of people are willing to make those sacrifices and they don't win anyway. You can make all the sacrifices you want, but if you ain't got somebody like Jordan, sometimes you ain't going to win anyway. But if you have guys like that and you don't make those sacrifices, then it's going to be really, really, really hard. So when you're recruiting, you got to get kids that are willing to be disciplined, be committed, and they're going to do what you want them to do. And they're going to be willing to give up some of themselves and be teammates, So if you want to build a championship program, then you got to get those kinds of kids. If you just want to have a great team 1 year or a couple years, then you can do it a different way. But when those guys leave, then you don't have a great team anymore. So there's a big difference between if you want to have a great team, then you can do it like that. Take shortcuts, do whatever you want, boom. And if you want to have a great program, a championship program, then you got to lay those foundations. And that's going to take a lot of sacrifice, a lot of giving. You have to give your life to it as a coach, and players have to give their entire, being. Like I want to win more than anything in the world. I want to be part of a championship program. So I'm not going to do anything to screw it up, and I'm going to do what coach wants me to do, and I'm going to be a great teammate, and I'm going to work on my game, and all those things. And we're never, you're never going to get it right, but you got to get it right more often than you get it wrong. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, and you talk about the sacrifice too, and I know Michael Jordan did, and so did Diana Taurasi, that you have to literally sacrifice your life, and you obviously being one of the greatest coaches of all time, if not the greatest, well, the greatest in my opinion. Would you say the same thing for you?
Yeah, there's a lot of your life. There's a lot of your life that you end up putting aside, but that's just part of because when you think about it, you're like a small business owner. You're an entrepreneur. You have your own business. So it's me, and then I have my coaches, and then you got Sarah, and then Peggy, and then when you were there, and then Carly, and back, you can go back and forth and name everybody. Then all your players. Then you've got the academic support people like Ellen. Then you got Chris in the in the equipment room, and then you got your athletic trainers. Then you've got your strength and conditioning people, and you got all that stuff. If you owned the business and you had 25 people working with you, you wouldn't have much of a personal life. your every day would be devoted towards making that business better.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what happens when you're a basketball coach at this level. You have to put a lot of things away, you know. So what is that? Well, you know, maybe it's your kids. You know, sometimes you don't get to do all the things that everybody else does, but then they get to do some things that other kids don't get to do because their dad's the coach at UConn, you know.
Yep.
So you have to be able to, you know, prioritize and say, what can I give up? What can I not give up? What's worth it? What's not worth it?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I've always been able to do that. I mean, I've always been pretty good at, you know, I'm not I'm not one of these guys that's up 3 o'clock in the morning worrying about, you know, what out of bounds play we're running. And we have the worst out of bounds plays in America anyway. So that might be the one reason why. But I try to keep it like, hey, this is my job and this is my life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is what I do for a living. It's not my life.
Yeah.
Even though it dominates your life. It's not my life.
Not your
You
life.
know, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's funny too. You bring up Peggy and you bring up back then. Peggy told me the story that when I guess you were in Gamble one day and you were next to Norm and you were just looking around and you're like, one day I'm going to sell this place out. And I guess Norm started laughing. He was like, yeah, okay, buddy. Okay.
Uh,
How did you know? How did you know?
Look,
You and CD, how did you guys know?
half the shit I say, I have no idea whether it's going to come true or not, you know. But you know, a lot of times things pop into your mind, you know, and you go, "This is how I feel right now." Like I think someday this is what we're going to do. That doesn't mean you've already planned it out. Okay, step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to do it. La 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 la. You know, it's just one of those things where you look around and you go, yeah, this is what we're going to do. But you're not quite sure whether you can or not. But I knew we were going to be really good. I mean, I knew we were going to be really good, and I knew it was going to be amazing. But I didn't know how amazing. Nobody knows that.
Yeah.
You know. And sometimes, you know, as a coach, you just get something. You know, you get like our first Final Four. So the NCAA puts out a poster every year, you know, and advertising. This is where the Final Four is going to be, all right? And these are the regionals, and this is where the Final Four is going to be. So I remember we had gone to the NCAA tournament and we had lost. Then we went to the NCAA tournament again and we lost. Now we go to the NCAA tournament and we got to bye. That means we got to win one game to go to regionals. Well, before the season even started, I had a poster that I put up in my office, and it had the dates of the regionals. And the games were on my birthday. They were in Philadelphia at the Palestra, where I used to hang out and where I coached. I said, hell yeah, man, we're going to the Final Four. It's an omen right there, man. I told everybody on the team, we're going to the Final Four. That's right. And, you know, did I know for sure? No, I just said, what the hell we're going to do? You know, sometimes you can talk things into existence. If you keep telling yourself you're going to do something, you know, you're going to do it. And that's, you know, what can I tell you? And I see a lot of the questions come up there. You know the crazy thing, Chloe? It doesn't matter how good your team is. I don't care what anybody says. The only thing people want to talk about are your recruits. That's it.
Yeah.
Right there. So I'll tell you, for instance, when Maya Moore was playing here, I think Maya had just graduated, maybe, or maybe she was still, I don't even remember. They all run into each other. So I remember I was at a thing and I'm speaking and I say, any questions? And they go, yeah, tell me about this kid, number 23 or whatever she was. And I went, she hasn't even played a game for us. She's still a senior in high school or something, or she's going to be like, why would you why would you want to talk about her? Like she's not scored one bucket in college. She hasn't been to one practice, and that's what you want to talk about. We got all these great players on our team, and you want to talk about the new guys coming in, and it's been like that all the time,
Forever.
all the time, forever.
Yeah.
All people want to talk about, and then, because I hear it all from, hey, did you see this thing on the boneyard? They said this, and I'm like,
Not the
yeah,
boneyard, coach.
yeah, like
Come on.
and I get all these people that read, sometimes CD will go, hey, did you see this? Like they're like, I don't pay that stuff attention, but the invariably people will show me and they'll give me the starting lineup for, like, let's say next year or any year, and they'll always have 3 freshmen in it.
Every time, doesn't matter.
Every time it'll be like, well, this kid's going to start, that kid's going to start. Of course, that kid's going to start. Look, one year, this is how you knew. One year we played in Europe, and our fans had never seen any of our freshmen play. So that August we played in Europe, and the games were not on TV. So they could like read about them from the media, and they had these guys like, woo, undefeated, going to win 4 national championships. Those guys were terrible.
Yeah.
So everybody wants to talk about the new guys, and this year's one of those years when you really have to talk about those new guys, because that's half the team. We have 5 players coming back, 4 of them that were here last year.
Yep.
3 of them started. Okay, 3 of the 5 coming back started.
Yep.
And then you got Aubrey and you got Avina who sat out. All right. So now you throw in 5 kids coming out, and you say, wow, they're unbelievable. Well, they're not even the #1 recruiting class in the country, from what I read. Like Oregon had the best recruiting class in the country. So, how good could they be? So this is one year where you could say, well, we got 5 pretty good players, and we'll see. We'll see how good they are. And obviously, everybody's read about them. Everybody's read about Paige. They've all seen her on, all the YouTube stuff and all her highlights. I ask her all the time. I said, what do you get up in the morning and go, oh, what highlight am I going to make today? I never see any defensive highlights. I know that whenever I see those things. I tell her that all the time.
I tell her that too. Don't worry.
I know. So, and then everybody wants to talk about, Mir. They haven't seen her play as much, but they all read about, her incredible athletic ability and how high she can jump and what she can do, but nobody's really seen her play, and nobody really, knows that much about her relative to, say, Paige. And the interesting thing is we've got 2 foreign kids.
I know Aaliyah from Canada.
Yeah, Aaliyah from Canada, and people have not really seen her play that much, but she played on the national team.
Yep.
And she's incredibly athletic, 6'2", 6'3", whatever she is, and can do a whole bunch of different things, and just plays so hard. She's that's one thing I like about this group. They're like really tough competitors, and she's a tough competitor. And no one's really seen Nika play over in Croatia.
Yeah.
Really haven't seen her. They might have seen some highlights of, them playing over there, but it's like the highlights I saw of Anna play, over in Poland. Something happened in the air,
right.
Flying from Poland. Something happened over the Atlantic. I don't know. Somebody must have opened the door and dropped a lot of the stuff that she was doing, because it took her about 3 months to catch up when she got here. And then, we got the big kid from New Hampshire, Piat. Yeah, Piat. And people haven't seen her play that much either, even though she's, 6'5", 6'6", whatever she is. So, yeah, we've got a bunch of kids coming in that are going to have to really be good. Yeah. That's all there is to it. They're going to have to be good. Yeah. But you know what? I remember when Stephanie Dolson and Bria Hartley came in as freshmen, and they had to start every game. They won. And their second game, Their second game was against Baylor at the XL Center in front of 16,000 people, and they had Brittany Griner. And I'll tell you what, I think Stephanie Dolson fouled out in like 10 minutes, 12
Yeah.
minutes, and didn't score. It was crazy. But Bria Hartley scored like 8 points in the last minute and a half, and we end up winning the game.
Mm-hmm.
So this year, these freshmen, I don't know, if they're going to start, not start. I really don't care. But I know they're going to have to play a big role in whatever success that we have. So it's unfortunate that they haven't been able to get up here on campus as of yet, and they won't be getting up here on campus for the near future, but hopefully soon.
Okay. When you say soon, because I'm guessing obviously typically they would be coming either during like summer 1, summer 2, or whatever, but obviously with COVID-19 things have changed. It's funny though, Coach. So I've seen a few of them play. I've seen Mir. I think Mir, she's awesome. Just how hard she plays and how athletic she is reminds me a lot of Gabby, actually.
Yeah.
And I've seen Paige. I've been watching her forever. And then I've seen Aaliyah too.
But you know what? You know what though? Funny thing about it, Gabby had more muscle definition in her one arm than Paige and Mir put together. Like if you put Paige and Mir's arms together, they wouldn't be as big as Gabby's.
And strong as Gabby. Yeah. So it's been cool. And then I got to see when I was in Toronto, I got to see Aaliyah play with her Crestwood team too. So I'm excited to see everyone. But it's funny that you say people always want to talk about the recruits because over half the questions were about the incoming freshmen.
I'm telling you.
So you were right.
That's what it is. That's
okay.
what it is.
So let's take a few more from the fans. So someone else wants to know, if you weren't a coach, what job would you have done?
Oh, that's a good question. I think the biggest interest that I had, growing up was I was really into like current events, things that were going on in the world. Mm-hmm. Like I was really fascinated by all that. So I always wanted to read up on what's happening in the United States government, what's happening in the rest of the world, what's happening, and there was so much going on in the 60s. And, when I was in school, it was the late 60s. I mean, what was I, 15 years old when, Bobby Kennedy was killed and Martin Luther King was killed, and you had the riots and you had the hippie versus the straight guys, it was just an unbelievable time. You had the Vietnam War and you're watching it on TV, and it's the first war that you ever could watch on TV. You watched it. You watched them, what they were doing. You watched kids being killed. So I was always fascinated by that. So when I went to school, I was a political science major because I thought, that's a great life, to be able to stay in that world, whatever that world means, Mm-hmm. I always thought being like a lobbyist or being in some kind of public relations firm or something like that, where I'm using my unique ability to bullshit people and for a good cause.
That wouldn't be surprised there, huh, Coach? That's pretty good. All right, so here's another one. Who was one of the most underrated players you think that you coached?
Most underrated, but what you mean? Most underrated by other people? Certainly not. I'll give you people that they weren't underrated by us, but mm-hmm. they were underrated by everybody else. I'll go all the way back to, heck, Debbie Bear. When we went to the Final Four, mm-hmm. Debbie Fisk. Now, uh, play point guard about as well as you could play it, but nobody's gonna talk about that given some of the guards that we've had.
Right.
Jamal Elliott, you know,
Jamal,
everybody
yeah.
talks on that team. On that team we had Rebecca was Player of the Year. Then the following year, Jen Rosati was Player of the Year. Then the following year, Carol Walters was Player of the Year, and we had Nikisha Sales. So guys like Jamel and Carla Berube, they were like poof, they were like throw-ins,
Mm-hmm.
but like you're not going to win. You're not even come close to winning a championship without those guys.
Yeah.
Asia Jones, she didn't make the All-America team. Hell, man, she was probably better than 9 of the kids that did make the All-America team. So, yeah, we've had kids that were, under that played such huge roles on our team. Megan Patterson,
Mm-hmm.
just a ton of kids that really, Jessica Moore, Ashley Battle. I mean, we've had
Yeah.
guys that everybody thought, woo,
Yeah.
just throwaways. These guys were unbelievably good.
Yeah.
And they gave up a lot of their personal gain for the good of the team. That's what I'm
Mm-hmm.
talking about, for a chance to win,
Mm-hmm.
and I could go on and on and on, Barbara Turner, Ann Struther, that whole team, Maria Conlon, that whole team that Dee played with. Now, one of those kids made All-American. One of those kids got kind of recognition. It was all about D, but without those guys, you're not going anywhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Here's another one. This is a good one. Which championship was the most fulfilling?
Which championship was the most fulfilling?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I mean, you have 11, so take your time.
I don't know which one was the most fulfilling. I mean, they all have their place. I think I got to say, I think the last one that we won, which would have been 2016 when Stewie was a senior,
Yeah.
Stewie and Tuck and Mariah were seniors.
I remember.
I think because there was so much riding in that.
Mm-hmm.
So many things going on. Stewie wants to win her 4th championship.
Yep.
We're going to win 4 in a row. No one's ever done that before.
Right.
No one's ever won 11 before. There was so much going on that when it actually did happen,
Mm-hmm.
it was like mind blowing at the time. Like, wow,
Yeah.
we're going to look back and go, I can't believe that we actually did this.
Yeah. No, that's crazy. I know I can't. I'm ready for that ESPN 30 for 30, whatever else with that one, because that's a really good one. And it's funny too, because that next year, that's then when I came onto the program, and I will never forget it. This was like probably like my first game impression of you. Okay, so we're playing against Baylor, all right, and I'm pretty sure we're down at halftime. I go into the locker room, and it's like Coach Risk, Coach Shea, and CD, and they're going back and forth, all of this, and you just come in, and you're just smiling, and you're like, yeah, CD, this is like the old days, right? And you were so happy, and I'm in there thinking, like, Coach, like, you're smiling right now? But I just remember, I feel like, what was that year like for you coming off of the 2016 championship?
That Baylor game was at home, right?
Yeah, it was at Gamble.
Yeah, because all I kept saying was, all right, we just had like, what, 2 straight undefeated seasons or something, and we hadn't lost a game. And I'm thinking to myself, all right, then we started off at Florida State,
Mm-hmm.
and then it was we were lucky to win that one. Fisa blocks a shot at the end of the game. You know, we were lucky to win that one. And I thought, you know, these guys, they think that this is just going to happen, you know. They don't realize, well, they're going to get their asses handed to them when Baylor comes into town, and we'll see what happens. Then we'll see how they react. Then they'll know that this is serious business. And then we go out and we beat them, and I'm like, Jesus, Mary Jesus. What do we got to do to lose a game around here? You know, and then we went. Then the Notre Dame game was the same thing, you know, and it just kept snowballing and snowballing. Then it was like, all right, when we play South Carolina, you guys are in deep shit, and then we got to blow them out, you know. And it's like, you know, like I'm holding my head, going, "Come on, guys!" And then, you know, obviously it happened in the NCAA tournament, and couldn't have been the worst time. But I think when you realize, how did that not happen earlier? 111 wins. Like when you see how something could happen, a buzzer beater. How did that not happen earlier?
Right. Yeah.
In 3 years, how does that not happen sooner than that? That's what's incredible about it. You know, that's what's amazing about it. That season, woo! That season was, and yeah, we had a chance to win it. We had a chance to win it, and we didn't.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do?
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah, I mean, 111 in a row. The next longest streak, I think, is like right now is like what, 20?
20 something.
So,
Yeah.
I don't know. 20 in a row.
Yeah. No, it's still wild. It's still crazy to me. I can't believe it.
I know.
Here's another one. Someone asked earlier, you know, obviously I saw you made some comments too about what it was like coaching against Coach McGraw for so long, and now, you know, her retiring. But you spoke very highly, obviously, of Coach Ivy because you've known her for a long time. What was that rivalry like for you? I know you compared it a lot to how it was with you and Pat.
Yeah, you know, the whole Notre Dame thing, because we were in the same league, ended up being a whole different story than the Tennessee thing. You know, Tennessee, we play them, and we just go to our conference.
Right.
It was the hardest conference in the history of college basketball, men and women. I mean, you play Saturday, you play you got Louisville. Then the following Saturday, you got Notre Dame. And then you got DePaul. And then you got Syracuse. And it's just like on and on and on and on. And then you're at West Virginia. So it was just like, woo, every game. So when you play Tennessee, it was like, whoo, let's get a breather here, you know? Play somebody where, you know, conference championship is not at stake. So with the Notre Dame thing, you know, when they came into our league, I thought, you know, this is going to be really good for them. Like I wasn't thinking, wow, this is great. We got Notre Dame. You know, I'm thinking, I don't give a damn. What's Notre Dame at to us back then?
Right.
You know, they were like, I don't know, Mid-American Conference, not even Mid-American. I don't know, Horizon Conference. I don't even know what conference they were in. So when they joined the Big East, you know, obviously we were the best team in the league, and Rutgers was really, really good. Yeah,
Rutgers.
You know, we were probably the two best teams back then, and we just beat Notre Dame all the time, and it wasn't even
close. Yeah,
it was never even close. And then, you know, I think being in our league and being Notre Dame and having the ability to recruit at Notre Dame, which is not that difficult, I would think. Then all of a sudden, start getting better players. And now it's a whole different story because they've got guys that they're tough. They know they can win. And all it takes is like one win, and that could change, you know, everything. Because
Mm-hmm.
if you've never won, that's different. So, uh, after it became really, really competitive, and they won the national championship in 2001, and that was a hell of a championship by them. And Neil was on that team.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah, that was a hell of a championship for them, and but then it took a long time for them to get back to the Final Four and win a national championship. But then once they got back there, I think with Skylar Diggins' class, once they came in, Skylar, McBride, Chanwa, that group, I think. I
Mm-hmm.
might be missing somebody, but I think that group, uh, they really that kind of changed. They got really, really good. And then
Yeah.
they started beating us a couple times. Um, Hell, one time they beat us 3 times. When Stewie, yeah, I mean,
Bria Hartley was there too, right?
yeah, and they beat
Yeah.
us a couple times, and they beat us in the Final Four.
Mm-hmm.
So it did become like Tennessee in that every game was a big game.
Yeah.
Every time we played them, it was 1 versus 2, 2 versus 3, blah 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 blah. You know,
Mm-hmm.
uh, then like like they had like 4 in a row they won. I don't know, 5 out of 7. I don't know, but they won, and
Mm-hmm.
you know that shows you how good we are. That became their claim to fame. And we've beaten Connecticut more than anybody else.
Yep.
All right, well, that means
That's
something.
Yeah. I mean, that's what happens. I remember. I don't know if you remember this in 2016. I know that this is when I was on Maryland and we played at Madison Square Garden.
Yeah,
That game. And that game was rough on both sides. And I remember though going to the locker room after the game, and I won't say which one of my teammates was. She was like, "Dang, we almost beat Connecticut." And I turned to her and I was like, "You're proud that we almost beat Connecticut?" And we got into this fight afterwards.
I know,
But
I
I
know,
was, at the time, when I look back on it now, I'm like, having
I
that
know,
type of mindset, almost beating Connecticut,
I know,
would have been claim to
I
fame.
know, I know.
It's crazy,
And
coach.
that's kind of, yeah. People might not notice, but uh, the year after we won a national championship in 1995.
Mm-hmm.
So we had won, I don't know how many games in a row in the Big East, right? A ton of games in the Big East. So now we are like at Syracuse on like a Wednesday night, maybe Thursday night. I don't know when it was, but we play at Syracuse, and we got Kara and Carla and Jen and Jamel, and you know Nikisha's on the team. We got a really, really good team,
Yeah.
and we go up there, and son of a bitch, we lose. And I mean, it's snowing like a mother, and then the plane can't take off, and oh man, it was awful. So
Uh-huh.
we lose, and now we go home. A day later, 2 days later, we got to get on a plane and we got to fly to Tennessee, and they've won like 69 in a row or something like that at their place.
Uh-huh.
So we just lost to Syracuse. Get home, get on a plane, then we go to Tennessee and we beat Tennessee
Uh-huh.
at Tennessee. Well, the following year, we play at Syracuse because they're in our league.
Mm-hmm.
And we go there, and it's still there, I think. I haven't been to Manley Fieldhouse. When you walk in the front door, big trophy case,
Mm-hmm.
and it has our ball, a score on it, and then I think, them beating Connecticut in a regular season game in a goddamn snowstorm. And I think it's still there. I think it's still there. So yeah, I mean, it's bigger than. Well, look what happened in the Final Four when we lost to Mississippi State. They weren't the same team the next night.
That game was the national championship game
Yeah, it might have
for
been.
them.
Might have
For
been.
them.
Yeah, for them. Yeah,
For
yeah, it might
them.
have been. Might
Yeah.
have been.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard. I'm sure. I know that probably still eats at them too, huh?
Well, it's hard to win championships. I don't care. You know how good you are, you still got to play in that championship game, and you still got to
Mm-hmm.
win. Your players still got to show up, and you still got to play great.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
Mm-hmm.
it. I mean, just because you have a better team. That's why I
Doesn't
thought it
matter.
was crazy when South Carolina's like, give us the trophy. We were number one in the country at the end of the season. I go, well, you know how many teams number one in the country don't win the national championship? Trust me, I know. We've been there.
Been there.
So yeah, it's hard. It's really, really hard. You
Yeah.
know, but that's it's not easy. And that year that we played Notre Dame and both teams were undefeated, I don't think that's ever happened before.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think that's ever happened before,
Yeah.
where both teams are undefeated.
Yeah.
That was crazy.
That was crazy. Yeah. Those are, it's funny. I don't remember every game, but from certain games, I just remember specific moments and I can remember how I felt. And even though like losing at Maryland in the Final Fours hurt, losing in the Final Fours when I was at UConn hurt more. And I can't explain it. I don't know what it was, but I think it has something to do with, and this is why I respect you so much. Like as a player, you know, I feel like it's really in your control. As a coach, even though there are a lot of things in your control, I feel like at the end of the day, like a lot of it is clearly on the players, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it just,
Mm-hmm.
it's that crazy feeling, like trusting, you know, 18 to 22-year-old girls with your livelihood and this and that, you know?
Right. Right.
So,
No, yeah. You know, I mean, how many times was Maryland in the Final Four?
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
you know, and I think we played. Did we play them once or twice in the
We
Final Four?
played, we
I don't
played
remember.
once in the Final Four, but
Once, yeah,
every
once
year
in the
other
Final
than
Four.
that, we either played you in like the Sweet 16 or
Yeah, yeah, we
Elite Eight
played a
or
lot.
something.
We played a lot. We
Yeah.
played a lot, and I think a lot of times, you know, um, if you haven't won a national championship, there's always a doubt. Like, can we? Can
Mm-hmm.
we? Can we? Can we? And then when you're at a place like Connecticut, when you got there, it's like, well, of course we're going to win. Of
Yeah.
course we're going to win. So when you lose that environment, it's more devastating
Yeah.
because you have to come